Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. As promised, I am going to show you how to make these little Polaroid looking pictures or watercolors. I posted these a while ago and I also made some cards out of these and everyone seems to like them. So I just want to go over some products that you will use or you will need to create this. This is my go-to circle maker. If you don't have that, you can of course use anything that will make a circle. Even something like this, like a washi tape, will make a perfect circle. You'll need a ruler. I like the stainless steel rulers, and this will be to tear the paper, so you kind of make this deckled edge when you are preparing your paper. I guess a plastic ruler would work as well. Or you could just cut the paper, but I like the deckled edge on the paper, so that's why I use a ruler. If you have only one ruler, that's fine. You'll need some, like, I don't know, poster board, or this is foam core to tape your piece of paper down so that it doesn't buckle and, you know, bubble up in the middle when you're putting your watercolor down. And you could use, you know, some scrap, like a scrap box, or, you know, just a thicker cardstock, whatever, just something to tape it down. Or you could directly tape it down on your surface too. This is the watercolor paper that I use almost all the time for all of my projects. A lot of you ask me what type of paper I use, and this is my paper I always use for a lot of my watercolor. And then I have my paints, of course. I always have two different things of water. I have one for my white that I use, my bleed proof white, and then I have one for the colors that I'll be using. My go-to pens, of course, my white Uniball Signo that I make all my stars with, and this is a jelly roll white pen that's a little bit smaller, a finer tip. I use that to make stars as well, but it's a little more transparent, so you get a little bit more depth if you use these two together. And here is my Pentel Sparkle Pop silver pen that I use to make all my silver accents with. I love it. And my Jelly Roll gold pen. I'm not sure if I'll use gold, but maybe. I just like to have it handy. This is, I think, a bone folder. It's not actually a bone or made of a bone, but it's like the color of a bone, I guess. That's maybe where it gets its name from. But it helps to fold the paper. So you fold your paper and then you run this along the seam and it makes a really nice fold. So that's handy to have. You don't have to have it. Then I have various sizes of paintbrushes. So these are my favorite, and you can find these Zen Royal and Langnickel paintbrushes at like Michael's, and you can find them on Amazon in packs, and they're my favorite. And then these are some stamps that snap together, letter stamps that snap together. And you can find these at Michael's. I got these at Michael's in their stamp section. And they come in this lowercase, or you can get them in the uppercase letters. And then you just snap them together and make words. And get your favorite, if you're gonna use stamps, you'll wanna get your favorite stamp pad. This one is mine. It's a gray. It's a dark gray color. It's called Cloudy Sky. And that's what I use to stamp the word clouds on this piece. So, oh, washi tape. So that's probably one of the more important things. So find some washi tape. I guess you could use painter's tape too, but I like washi tape because you can get it in different sizes. And I believe this is like a 1/2 inch. This might be a 1/4 inch and maybe an 1/8 inch. Those are the materials that you'll need to start. So let's get to it. So first thing, take your watercolor paper tear out a big sheet of paper, show you how to use or how to divide up this paper to make the 3 sizes. So take your paper and fold it in half. So this is where this bone holder thing, or bone folder thing comes in handy, because you want this crease to be nice to be able to tear your paper. So you run it along the crease and it really creases the paper nice. And do it on the other side and then flip it over and then fold it back. Sorry, I got kind of close there. Flip it over and fold it back and then do the same thing. This is easier to see on the black. Ow, paper cut. That's nice. Okay. And then do it just one more time. This paper, this watercolor paper, is really thick, so sometimes it can be hard to tear. That's why I do this so many times, to kind of get it loosened up in the middle so that when you tear it, it's easier. So then I take this metal ruler, put it right down the middle, and hold it tight, and then pull your paper kind of up and towards you, just lightly, so you don't tear the other side of the paper. There, and then it leaves a nice little like deckled edge. Okay, so this will be your big Polaroid. So this other side of the paper, we're gonna fold again in half and do the same exact thing. So this will be your medium-sized Polaroid that you could use in a journal, or you could put it on the front of a card or hang it up, whatever you'd like to do. So now this one is going to be the small little Polaroid, and then you're going to do the same thing, just fold it in half again. Okay, so you can get rid of this other side, or you can make another small Polaroid if you want, but you should have these 3 sizes to make your Polaroids. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to tape them to the boards. So take your board and center it the best you can. Take your big size washi tape, or if you're using just regular painter's tape, you're gonna run it along the very top edge here, and I'll show you. So you want the edge, this edge right here, to be at the very top of your paper. And this gets a little tricky. Okay. Put a little extra here to secure. But you want this to be a nice straight line at the top, or as straight as you can get it. So then run it down the lengthwise here and do it on this other edge, and then I'll show you how to do it in the middle. Okay, so your picture will be here, and then this part we're gonna cut off about 2 inches so that it's a little bit more even or proportional. And this, let's see, is, measuring the wrong thing here. So about 4.5, and you want it square, so measure about 4.5 inches down. Okay, so just make a little line. And this is where this little ruler comes in handy. And I'm just gonna lightly make a line, nothing too dark. So then you've got a nice perfect square there to paint in. And then you're gonna take your washi tape and mark it off. There. And then just kind of run your finger along the edge there so that the paint and water doesn't seep in there. Get there. Anyway, let's continue taping the other ones. So here's your medium-sized one. And you want to do the same exact thing that you did there with the large one. And you can use the medium-sized tape, or you can just move. This is a 1/2 inch size tape. Okay, now once you've got all 3 of your pieces of paper taped to the board, you're ready to start painting. Okay, I'm going to start with the largest piece first, and then while I work on this one and let it dry, then I'll go to the next one and the next one and just kind of switch them out as they dry. Okay, so I'm going to start with the big one, and we'll go through how I do this. And first thing is this color pink that everyone asks me about. I'll show you how I make it. So I use a lot of different colors from like people who homemade their own watercolors, and one of my very favorites is Designs by Rachel Beth. She makes some really amazing watercolors, and I bought her Happy Birthday palette, which contains this vanilla frosting color. So, well, I'm not gonna take it out, but this is that color, and I use that in my pink mix. And then I also use a Daniel Smith Rose Madder, and actually it's Rose Madder Gen is what it's called, Genuine. Oh, I'm sorry, this is a Winsor Newton, but I do have a Daniel Smith one. They are a little more pricey, this color, because it's made of like actual roses. So they grind up the rose petals, and that's how they make this color. And it smells like roses. It's amazing. So I use that, I use this, and then I also use a little bit of this sort of peachy gold color that is also a color from Designs by Rachel Beth. It comes in one of her pre-made palettes, and I can't remember exactly which one, but it's a color called Mai Tai. So that also goes into the mix. And then sometimes I'll add in a little bit of my sunstone, my Daniel Smith iridescent sunstone, to give it a little bit more shimmer. But this color really gives it a nice shimmer. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix a little of that up. As you can see, I already got some in there, and that's fine. I just take my paintbrush and re-wet it. So, but I'll need a lot more than just that. So let me take this out from underneath here so I don't spill on it. So I just get my Rose Madder wet. And then I take some of this Mai Tai orangey shimmery color, and I mix that in there. And as you can see, it kind of makes like a real like peachy pink And this is all kind of, I don't really measure, I just kind of guess on what I like, or if the color, if I like it, then I go with it. There's no like set proportion of each color that I put in there. Oops, got a little blue in there. So then I take some of this color called Vanilla Frosting, and this lightens the pink up quite a bit. Makes it, kind of softens it. So that looks like a pretty good color to me. I like that color. Now, sometimes I go in and I add a little bit of a color called, also by Designs by Rachel Beth, called Come On Eileen. And it's kind of a darkish fuchsia color. I like to add little dabs of that in there sometimes, but I won't add it directly into this. Just as I put it on the paper, I will put a little bit more of that on there, and I'll show you how I'm doing that. Put a little gold in there just to give it a little more shimmer. Okay, so I'm gonna lay down the pink color first, and then I'm also gonna use a little bit of the Moon Glow color to darken up some of the spots where I'm going to put the clouds. I always work my I always put water down on my paper first. I soak the paper, not soak it, but I put a wash down on the paper first. And that's how I work with my watercolor. I rarely put the water in the color and mix it and then put it on a dry piece of paper, because then you're getting more of like a almost acrylic paint type of texture. But some people like that, and that's totally your preference. So I'm gonna create kind of like a gradient. So I'm gonna go from like kind of a darker pink over to a lighter pink. And I'm just gonna, as I'm going over to the lighter pink, I'm just gonna add more of my vanilla color. And then I'm gonna add a little bit more of the pink, the rose madder in here. Okay, and then I'm going to add a little bit of this darker color called Come On Eileen. And it's really pretty color, like it spreads very nicely. So that's why I like it, but a little bit goes a long way. You see, it's very dark. I like how it like spreads like that. Okay, then I'm gonna, after I get my pink sort of laid down how I want it, then I'm gonna take a little purple or Moon Glow and go in and kind of color in where I'm going to put clouds. So, and you'll see Moon Glow like spreads out and combines so nicely in this pink. So I'm gonna make a cloud up here. And so the watercolor kind of spreads, and that's fine, but you want to keep it kind of darker on the bottom of the cloud, because when the light shines on a cloud, it's light at the top, and then at the bottom there's a shadow, because the light doesn't shine at the bottom of a cloud. So okay, so in this corner kind of like this original, I made it a little bit darker so I could put some stars. So I'm gonna go back in and kind of put some more of this darker pink in there. Okay. Let this dry a little bit off to the side while you work on your other pieces. And if it's still not dry when you come back to it, you can always, like I said, use a heat gun or a blow dryer to hurry along the process. Okay, the next one, so let's work on the medium-sized one. And for that one, I'm going to do something similar to this. And this is more of the moon. I've used more moon glow in this and some of Payne's Gray, which I also carry in my moon palette to kind of darken up the sky at the top. And then I do use more of the pink. Okay, now let this one dry while you work on the small one. This one I'm just gonna keep a little bit simpler, and we're just gonna make a moon in here. And you could do whatever color you want, but I'm gonna do something similar to this. So actually what you need to do is draw your moon in there first, because the moon, if you're gonna make your moon a color like I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna make it the purple moon glow color. I want the purple to kind of bleed out into the pink. So I'm gonna draw it on there first rather than painting it all pink and then putting the purple in. Okay, I'm gonna let this one dry just a little bit before I color in the moon so it doesn't bleed. Okay, so it's somewhat dry. It's not completely dry, and that's fine, and that's actually better when you go to define the clouds a little bit more. I am opening a brand new jar of bleed proof white because my other one I used up. So here I go again. I'm just gonna dip my paintbrush right in there. Actually, I use the cap. I like to use the cap and like put a little inside the cap and then just use water to kind of dilute it. And that's what you're gonna do with this. And if you don't have bleed proof white, you could certainly use any opaque white watercolor. Titanium white is one that is opaque and will do a similar effect. I now am carrying one by Winsor & Newton in my Starry Night palette. That works very well. So I'm gonna go and just kind of define these clouds a little bit by just putting the white down over the purple. All right, I'm gonna let this one dry a little bit more before I do some of the other details on it. I'm going to pick up this one and do some of the clouds on the bottom. And let's see, this is a little saturated still, so on the edges. So I'm gonna just kind of move it inward and get rid of the excess so it dries a little bit. I'll let this dry, and then I'm gonna paint the moon on the small one. There. So we're gonna let that dry a little more. In fact, I think we are ready to put on most of the details onto all of these. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do a real quick dry with my heat tool on all of these. Okay, so now that everything is 100% dry, your background is dry, you can go in and do some of the details, like adding in some of the stars and then the moon and this one, and I'm probably gonna put some stars in the background on this, and also some stars, and I added rain here in this one, and I'll probably do the same here. So you want to make sure your backgrounds are completely dry before you start doing any sort of detail work, so it doesn't bleed. So I'm gonna go in and make some little speckles, some stars, but I don't want it all over this. So I'm gonna use like a scrap piece of paper to mark off where I just want to add some of the little splatter stars. And by splatter stars, I mean like taking a little bleed-proof white with a little bit of water on a very small brush and just tapping it to make little tiny splatter stars. That should be good for that. And then I'm gonna do the same for this, except for I don't want it to end up on here. So maybe what I'll do is, will that work? Okay, that'll work. So randomly, I just picked a bottle I had close by. Now do it to this one. I want stars all at the top, so I'm just going to cover what I don't want to get splattered. There. Okay, now go back to the first one while this dries. And this dries pretty quickly, so you don't need to worry about smearing it, or I'm sorry, about drying it with a heat gun. Okay, so we're gonna add some of the details like the rain, and we'll add some stars in here, and basically I do that with these pens. And I'm gonna make some stars first. And I use this pen. This is more of an opaque white, and it'll look like these stars. So I am gonna use this other pen that's it's got a finer tip, and this pen is actually a lot more transparent. Now I'm gonna put some rain in here, and I'm gonna have to turn it sideways. And this is kind of where the smaller ruler comes in handy, so that you can go along and make the little drops. Okay, so once you've got your rain in there, I added a little bit of this pen to kind of give it a little sparkle and shimmer. Okay, that one is done, and you can take it off. Okay, so here's one. So let's set that aside and finish these other with detail. So, and here I'm gonna put some stars and a moon like I did here. So I think, did I just eyeball that moon? I'm not really sure, but we'll just use a little stencil anyway. The final one. This one, I didn't really do a whole lot to, so I'm just going to add a little bit of stars in there, and that will be it. Okay, so once you've got your detail done, then you're gonna go ahead and take off some of the bottom so it looks more like a Polaroid. You could leave it like this with this much white space at the bottom if you like that, but I am going to take off some at the bottom. For this big one, you want to measure about 2 inches from the very bottom of the piece, and take off about 2 inches off this big one. You can just mark there so you know where to, I'm gonna fold mine over and tear it like I have, like I did in the beginning. For these small ones, I think about 1 inch or even maybe 3/4 of an inch. So I'm just making little marks on here so I know where to fold. And this one, I think 1 inch. So I'm just gonna put my ruler here on the marks, and I'm gonna fold my paper up. Okay. The same thing to this one. Okay, now you are ready to stamp your words right here, and you can make up anything that you want to stamp there. I just chose to do some like clouds for this one. I probably will choose moon for this one and dream for that one. Just kind of some dreamy words, and I'm gonna have to find all my letters to make up my words, so there, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. I had a lot of fun doing it. I can't wait to see what you all come up with. If you have any questions, certainly ask down below, and I will do my best to get back to them. Thank you so much for watching my channel.